Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Construction Show. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today, we have Kenco Engineering on the show, and we're filming them from Ag 1. Brian Handshoe, he is the president of Kenco Engineering, and Randy Barrington, an asphalt specialist at Kenco Engineering. Brian, Randy, welcome to the show. Good to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is it a busy show already?
Yes. Probably the busiest show, first hour I've seen ever.
Oh, really? Well, that's a good thing. So I'll try to keep it not too long for you. But Kenco, maybe Brian, start with you. Can you just give us a snapshot of who the company is for anybody who doesn't know?
Sure. So we're a true family-owned business. Started in the Bay Area of California in 1957. We've been based in Northern California the entire history of the company. Just moved cities here and there, but we represent one of those very few family-owned manufacturers of heavy parts in California. Not too many of us left. Our focus is to produce and design long-life wear products to enhance the longevity of a component. Our goal is to make a better quality part that's going to last longer than the original. So we're the value proposition. I love the way Randy likes to say we're the cheapest part you're going to put on a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Because we're going to last so long that it's more than going to pay for itself.
Randy, is that just quickly like that, and we're going to get into it as we get into the interview, but is that still a discussion, just people understanding the need for certain types of wear parts, one material to the other? Is that an ongoing discussion that sort of never stops? Or at this point, do people, as soon as you tell them, oh, it's made of this material, people kind of go, yeah, I got it?
No, they don't get it. They don't really understand. I mean, they're construction guys. You know, I spent 35 years running asphalt plants, gravel mines, and crushing operations. And you know, the guys that do that, they're not metallurgists. They're construction guys. All they need to know is how many tons am I going to get, if they're even tracking tons. A lot of times they're just looking for the cheapest price. And we're constantly working to educate and pass on information that we've stockpiled of what this product will actually do for you.
You know, Randy, I wanted to ask you, because I was looking at both your LinkedIns yesterday, and I saw that you'd worked on the plant construction side. That must just be when you say an asphalt specialist in your title now with Kenco, you really have that experience in the industry. You said 25 years in it?
No, I used about 35
years. Sorry.
I used Kenco products in the asphalt plant operation, in the gravel mines, and on the construction equipment for about 25 years. So I have a long history of proving the product. In fact, our comptroller that I worked for many years, I had to sell it to him before I could buy it. So,
oh, you a little experience.
Yeah. You have to cost justify before you can spend the money.
How did back at that time? How did you get sold on it originally?
Well, I believed a salesman many years ago. When I first started in the business, the guy kept coming by and wanting to sell us cutting edge for the loader, and he kept showing us, and I believed him. And the people that I worked for just couldn't see spending the money. So while they were gone, I bought a cutting edge. When they came back, you know, they were moaning and complaining and fussing, and you know, for about 2 hours, I just kept hearing it. You know, you spent all this money. Da, 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 da. I said, look, if it doesn't work, take half of because it was double the price of a Caterpillar cutting edge. And I told him, if it doesn't double the life, take the other half out of my paycheck.
Right.
We never bought anything but a Kenco cutting edge.
Wow.
From then on.
It must be, well, it must be just a huge advantage, Brian, to have someone like Randy, and who's actually, one, got sold the product, but also have that experience. And I was curious just how key that is to just even your sales strategy, to be able to have people on the ground that have actually dealt with the product.
It's absolutely critical. Randy was one of my best customers when we hired him away from his former employer. And that was the thing, is he was my test plant. His wear was so extreme, we would put products in his plant to try to tweak designs. And when you've got the opportunity to hire someone who has seen it, done it, touched all of it, you're crazy not to take that opportunity. Because for a lot of decades, we had salesmen who knew our products intimately well, but they didn't know exactly how it worked in the plant because we weren't the guys in the tower turning the dials.
Right.
Randy was the first guy we've hired who went from running these machines for 35 years to selling for us.
When you say tweak products, and I'm somewhat familiar with wear parts. We've over the years we've featured different applications where they're in. When you say tweaking a product, what does that consist of? Is that the composition of the material? Is it the design? What sort of goes into when you say tweaking over a period? Let's say at the same site, what is being tweaked?
Well, the answer.
Yeah, I got this one.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I would come up with a wear issue, when Brian would come to see me, he would say, how's everything going? How's it working? Is there anything we can do better? That was the conversations that we would have, because we had a relationship for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I would be like, yeah, let's go look at this and I'll show you the weakness. I'll show you the first place it's wearing, the first place it's failing, the first place it's giving. He would look at it and say, oh yeah, we can put some more tungsten around that. We can do something here and it'll only add $35, $40 to the cost. And I'm like, I'll pay that every time.
Right.
And so we had that relationship to improve the products over time. And we would look at how something actually wears, look for a weakness, make it stronger. And that's what we do. And we continually do that.
And sometimes that'll be changing the metallurgy. Different types of steel we can use on our ground engaging tools, different alloys we can use on the castings that go inside the plant. A lot of it will be like Randy's describing, where we can take a ground engaging tool and literally move the impregnation area half of an inch sometimes and completely change the way it wears. One of the challenges of our company is our strength. I'm going to guess roughly 60% of what we sell on an average day is customized in some way. That gives us the strength, the ability to go into a customer and say, we can give you almost exactly what you need to solve your problem. The challenge on that means we're not selling 10,000 of anything. So it does take a little longer. It's a little more expensive because it's all designed for that customer's item.
I know this is a bit of this will show that I'm not a machine operator or an asphalt plant operator, but is there ever a case where you put one wear part in and then that wear part, because that stands out, it causes wear in another area, so then you end up needing a wear part for that area, if that makes sense? Is that something that ever happens?
Oh yeah.
It more happens in a case where they don't notice the wear in this area over here because they're focused on one area.
Right.
Because this one wears out so fast, they don't think this one's wearing much at all. Well, you put, it's just like in a crusher. If we go in a crusher and we start putting things in this area around the road, or what we call a hot spot, well, all of a sudden now they're like, well, wait a minute, now this over here is my main wear area because we didn't treat that. And so then you put it there. We have repetitive cases where we increase the wear life. One of our products will last 5, some applications 10 times as long as an OEM product.
Wow. Well, and I think we should, I want to actually Brian, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your history of the company, but before that, I wanted to get into just the tungsten carbide impregnation, like that, just even that term. Can you a lot of people that are watching are going to know, but a lot of people are not. So can you just walk us through, whoever wants to take it, sort of what that process is, what that means?
So this is a process that our founder really pioneered, working with an old gentleman working in the oil fields of California back in the 60s. I mean, there are a lot of people don't realize Southern California, Central Valley there around Bakersfield, is one of America's best supplies of oil, especially the good, thick, gooey asphalt producing oil. And he was working on a process to improve drill bits and looking to retire. Our founder bought the rights to his process and spent years in Roseville perfecting that process. We bring into our factory tungsten carbide cutter inserts from the metal machining sector, like metal lathes. We bring those in and crush them down into a particle size, falls between a 7 and a 20 sieve. So they're big enough to take impact, but small enough to melt into the puddle nicely and get a nice homogeneous mixture of carbide into the impregnation, which we do by striking a 1500 amp arc, melting the parent steel down to 3/8, about a quarter of an inch, say, and then you inject the carbide chunks into that 1/4 inch deep puddle. And now you have a 1/4 inch deep layer of the tungsten carbide particles into the matrix of the steel. So it's not an overlayment. It's not on top. It literally is now part of the steel.
Right.
So that allows that steel to take the wear much, much better, but it uses kind of the structure, the rigidity of the base steel, so you don't have breakage.
Is that and then so and then do you then make the wear parts from that? Sorry if I misunderstood, but once you have that made, then do you cut the wear parts from that, or does it become too hard, or do you have to do that, or do you have to design the part first and then do the impregnation?
Yes to all.
Oh,
So for example, for some things, we will actually just take strips of steel, 3/4 by 2 inch, 10-foot long, and we will impregnate that entire 10-foot strip of steel. Those strips you can actually cut through the backing steel and break them to whatever length you want, and then weld that into any hot spot in your drum.
right.
We have customers that will buy bundles of 40 of these 10-foot strips, and then they're just welding them everywhere around their plant. If we're going to do a cutting edge for a front end loader, we're going to cut the steel, process the steel, put in the bolt holes, and then impregnate the carbide after we've manufactured the blade. We can put it into some steel castings or manganese castings. So we'll buy the casting in steel or manganese and then impregnate that part that's already finished. So it really is all the above. We can use one of the tricks in our bag and kind of make a lot of it work. That's how everything's so customized.
Right. It was, and I should just get you to clarify to the audience. You really are working across, like you're working with crushers in the asphalt plants, the wear parts. You're really covering anything within that heavy industry sector on wear parts, right?
One of our best segments we service are actually the steel service centers that remove slag from steel production.
Oh,
So we go from steel production, asphalt production, mining, road construction,
Farming.
farming.
right.
We
Yeah.
have a big presence in the Central Valley in California with farming. So, we cover a lot of segments.
And is your reach is across the U.S. though, Canada? Do you go to do business down in Mexico? How far sort of do you get out and do business?
We do sell to companies in Mexico, but we don't want to deal with the importation. So the customers we have often will have a warehouse on this side of the border
I see.
because they're so accustomed to buying from the US. So we ship a lot of Mexican customers to their warehouses here. And then the vast majority of our business is US and Canada. We do a little here and there to the South Pacific, but it's limited.
Brian, I wanted to I on your LinkedIn, I think it says it says 25 years, 8 months with Kenco. Is that accurate?
I joined our company in 98. I
Wow.
left the Air Force and came to Kenco in 98.
How did you end up with Kenco from the Air Force?
Good
I
story.
married the granddaughter of the founder.
Oh, okay.
Quite literally
I was watching Married In. I was watching the video yesterday, and I saw there's two brothers. So I don't know if that's the
Right.
fathers, and I was trying to connect the dots. So
So
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
I am generation number 3 by marrying into the company.
What was well, now I can really ask this question. What was the culture of the company back then? What has sort of brought that success? Every company has a sort of a different mixture that makes it have staying power. What do you think Kenco's is?
We do everything we can to make the customer happy. We try to solve their problem. We listen to what they're telling us they need and try to fix that. We don't try to fit our customer necessarily into our square peg. We try to fit our pegs to fit their need.
Right.
And it's a challenge. That's one of the reasons our products are more expensive. But I like going to bed at night feeling good about what we've done for the customer. I'm much more willing to apologize for the price. I don't want to have to apologize because something doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. Well, I saw that right on the video, which is a great video. We'll put it in a link for people to watch. It's really good. It's a very good video, actually. And I want to actually quickly circle back. So you were in served in the military. The founder did as well, right?
The founder, yeah, he was Navy, and then his sons, Dave and Don. Dave was in the Army, Don was in the Navy, and then I'm an old Air Force guy. So we're definitely a veteran-focused company. So we've had a lot of Marine Corps veterans have been our salesmen. So really the only service that has not been represented at Kenco was the Coast Guard.
Wow. Do you think that, I mean, that must affect, I've never been in the military, so I don't really have a sense of it, but that must have an effect on how the company gets run, things like organization, or maybe actually I won't even assume what it is. What effects does that have when you have sort of a business built around sort of a military family, if you will?
A big part of it is trustworthiness, honoring your word. We don't want to ever be the kind of company that tries to get around something with the legalities, with the contract. I want to be able to shake a guy's hand and know I'm going to do what we say we're going to do. And if we can't do something and honor that, we don't do it.
I can speak to that.
Yeah, please, Randy.
My history with them, because there was a time that Kenco had designed a new flight and a new process, and we put it in the drum, and I ran it for a little over a year. Brian came by on a sales visit and said, "Look, how are the parts doing? I want to see, can we?" And so we got in there early one morning before the plant fired up, and we went in there and looked. He took one look at the product. He said, "I don't like that. There's a spot here that in the design, I don't like what I'm seeing." So he sent me a drum of 30, 40 pieces free gratis. Said, we changed it because we talked about how can we tweak this, how can we make it better, made the design better. He sent me some free parts because we were designing it. It's one of our major sellers right now. It's I'm selling I've probably put flights in the past 3 years. We've probably put them in 15 drums. And they're very expensive parts when you talk about them going in initially, but the wear life on them, we've got flights in drums now that are with 5 million tons on them that are just look like they've been polished up and shined. No significant wear life loss.
Brian, I want to circle back to this because you kind of already answered the question, but I think it's worth kind of just touching on again. It's just a rephrasing of the question is, how do you keep that culture though? Because over time, mistakes are made, problems never go away. And I think one thing with business owners is, I was just talking about this with my partner yesterday, is that you get, sometimes the problems that come up start to be it's almost like a disruption to the job, but that is the job is solving the problems and dealing with people and making sure your team stays focused and all these sort of things. How do you now, in the position you're in, keep the company with that sort of approach that Randy just talked about? Because it's an easy thing to just change the needle just a little bit on that kind of approach.
I think a lot of it comes down to really being selective with who we hire. Whenever possible, I actually do like to try to pull from the veterans for positions. Two of my most recent ones have been another Navy and another Army vet. One of the reasons I like going with retired militaries, they know how to do a job. They know how to get up in the morning and work hard. They know how to be honest, and they know to handle a customer the way our company has always done it. And really, it's just making sure that everyone that we bring in wants to honor that philosophy of don't say it if you don't mean it, and don't say you're going to do it unless you intend to do it.
Do you think the military, like for your experience, does the military provide, does it help craft you into that person, or is it the type of people that get into the military are those type of people? Do you know what I mean? Like when you went in, did it craft that in you and then you carry that forward in your life?
I really think the answer to that is both.
Both.
There are certain qualities of people that are tended to join, but the military's purpose is to, in a lot of ways, tear you down and rebuild you in their model. And so a lot of the military structure really can help with a lot of people. I'm a firm believer that any young person who is wondering what they want to do when they grow up, 3 or 4 years in the military is never a bad option.
Yeah.
But yes, you do need in some ways maybe to have a lot of some of that guidance given to you by your parents in order to really fulfill that purpose
and get through it. I want to switch. I want to switch over, Randy. There's this. Okay, this is just a quick question. I was on your website going through your catalog. I know this is a big pivot, but I wanted to get this covered. You have a huge catalog on your website, and you said a lot of your stuff is, I forget what percentage you said is custom. But that other percentage of it, that is, you have that on spec, you know exactly what it is. Like I saw Mezzo parts on here, and there's so many, and we'll put a link to that as well for the audience. But if somebody just needs the part, that's something you can facilitate very easily, correct? In a lot of cases, because it's a huge catalog on here.
In a lot of cases, but one of the things you'll notice on the catalog, say for that Mezzo crusher, we're only going to have in a lot of cases a few parts for that crusher model.
Right.
And it'll
Yeah.
be like the parts that Randy mentioned, like the crusher of the cheek plates. We're not going to have necessarily every cheek plate in the crusher because not all of them wear evenly.
Right.
If it's a part that even a factory part's going to last several years, we're not going to waste our time doing that part.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, we cover a lot of different types of equipment, a lot of manufacturers, but only the specific items that tend to be problematic.
And certainly if you don't see the part in here, that is not a reason to not contact you, because you have this whole other side where you'll deliver whatever they need. Of course.
That's correct.
Yeah. And then Randy, I wanted to just, another topic to just for sort of my own curiosity, but I think it's important to your business, is just understanding. Like I was just curious, because people talk about, the investment. And so I was looking at, like an asphalt batch mix plant that'll range from 200,000 to 5 million. An asphalt recycling plant from 500,000 to 5 million. These ranges of investment, and of course, then there's crushers and loaders in those investments. Is that now at this point? Now you're on this side of the fence, selling the product in. How do you communicate that in today's world while you're trying to communicate to them the value of maintaining their investment, not putting in downtime? What is sort of the main way that you approach it, just to sort of make it very clear and make the ROI clear when you're talking to, someone who's watching this and it's a potential new client?
Well, for one of the things, I came from a company that had a culture of tracking everything because we had a saying, what you measure, you get better at. And so we quantified everything per ton. That was the metric that was the most beneficial, because you can say you're tracking hours on a machine, and that machine may spend a lot of time idling, and so that's not an accurate measurement of what kind of wear life you're really actually getting.
Right.
Some of the metrics that we use, just say we're going to take a cutting edge from an OEM, big major name brand. Their cutting edge is going to last you about 1,000 hours at a specific plant that I know, because I used to run it. And we just did a cost study again last year because they got a brand new front end loader. They called me and said, we're about to wear out the OEM edge and we need a Kenco edge for this machine. And they'd already flipped the OEM edge because it was a flippable edge.
Right.
And I said to them, well, you don't have time to get my product because we're booked up really heavy right now. And it's going to be about 3.5 weeks before I can get it to you. And that one that you flipped is not going to last that long. They said, sure, it will. It didn't. So they had to get another OEM edge while mine was being made.
Wow.
Because, getting it shipped to them. But here's the deal. My single edge cutting edge on that machine from Kenco lasts them on that plant site over and over and over. We've proven it 5,000 hours.
Wow.
On an edge you don't flip. They got 1,050 hours out of each one of the OEM edges. That included having to cut the bolts and flip it. So we get them 5 times the wear life, and we're about 2 to 2.5 times the cost. So there's the value.
Right.
But that's the thing. If you don't track that, if you don't track tons, it's my job to have to convince people. But the biggest thing is, in my experience, once they try Kenco and see the results, or put a product of ours next to an OEM and watch the two wear out, they don't go back.
I guess
they just don't.
I guess a lot of times you're probably, for new clients, I'm guessing you're getting them at their worst pain point, right? At their worst wear part, and then you build into the other parts. Is that sort of the system? Right. Yeah.
Well said.
Well, I'm looking for a job. No, I'm kidding.
Well, one of my customers had a slurry auger, and we're in the foundation auger drilling. We tungsten impregnate those. One of my customers 3 years ago, they had a slurry discharge dust auger that was getting them, when they completely hard faced every inch of the auger from end to end, shaft and flight.
Wow.
Getting 50,000 tons through the plant with that auger. I built them an auger with tungsten carbide in it. They've run that auger over 300,000 tons and it's showing no visible wear. 50,000 against 300,000.
Wow.
They were trashing it after 50,000, what they were doing before. And they had hundreds of hours in hard facing. We sold them a product for within 10% of the cost of all their hard facing they were doing, but it's getting them 6 times the life already. And they're not even talking about ordering another one.
Wow. Gentlemen, it's so nice to be able to talk to a company like Kenco, because you don't hear it as much anymore. Granted, that for a while there was kind of like they don't make anything like they used to, and there was this whole thing. And through doing this show, I found they certainly do make things like they used to and better. You just got to be willing to, one, pay for it. And a lot of times the great companies like Kenco, they're not as aggressive in their marketing because they've got a good product. They don't need to splash it all over everything to convince you to buy it. It's buy one of it and you'll work with us for the rest of your life. So for me,
let me add on, if you don't mind, to that,
yes,
that statement as you said. You ask how I sell it. So wear life is great and cost is great, and everybody's looking at the bottom line.
Yeah.
But there's so many factors that aren't included in just that spreadsheet. When you look at, one of the major concerns for all companies now is safety and liability.
Yeah.
If you don't have to put a guy in a truck to send him down the road 3 times to change a cutting edge on that machine. That's 3 times he didn't get on the road. That's
Yeah.
3 times he wasn't exposed to liability and incident and accident. That's 3 times he wouldn't have a safety issue of possible injury just on the safety factor alone. If my product only cost the same as theirs did, but you didn't have to service it but half as much, it sells on the safety factor.
Right.
It sells on liability. It sells on exposure to risk, and it sells on multiplying the time of your people.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get a job here, but the other thing that comes to my mind, you just said that, is the like work shortage now, and having a hard time finding people who are trained. All of a sudden now, if you don't have to, if it's 5 times less, am I saying that right? That you have to change out a part. Now, if you've got multiple sites, one person can do more on that site. If you're swapping out parts like a fifth of the time, right?
Right.
Well, one of the things that I sold when I was in the industry, I had to sell my comptroller. We wanted to floor our drag conveyor at our asphalt plant with a Kenco floor. I was getting 1 million tons maximum, sometimes only 750,000 tons out of a drag conveyor floor. And then I was spending a $30,000+ crane bill because I was way away from cities where cranes had to travel to me to lay the drag conveyor down to change out the floor. Kenco's floor at that time, I'm talking back in 2015, the OEM floor was 26,000, Kenco's was 52, double the money. But one crane bill.
Right.
Crane bill is that difference, not counting safety, liability, exposure to risk, downtime on the plant, all that kind of stuff. I put that floor in 2015. It's still there. It's on track right now to hit 5 million tons, which is what we give guaranteed in writing for a drag conveyor floor.
Wow.
It's a no-brainer. They've saved the crane, that $30,000 crane bill, not counting the labor and expense and all that. They've saved that over 3 times now.
That's why for decades, our target customer tended to be a small to mid-sized family-owned business, 3 to 5 plants, because on those types of companies, it was very often that the guy who's now in control signing the checks started off as a kid working for granddad, shoveling under the conveyor in the summer. So you're dealing with owners and purchasers who understand the labor that goes into that job.
Yeah.
That has been a challenge for us, is to understand more the environment now, where you have more larger corporations who are in the industry. It just changes how we need to sell the product.
Right. Yeah, because they need to see those numbers so quick, especially, again, new people coming in and out of the industry. They need to be able to see it so quick and understand it. You might not get this. You might not get 30, 40 minutes to just chat with them.
Right.
Yeah. It's no, I guess just quickly, I want to leave Brian, just one quick question to you. What's sort of the vision for the company? Just over the, even not, I mean, not, I'm not talking about the next 10, 20 years. Just what is sort of your focus over the next year or two for the company?
We're actually expanding into this industry that Randy was discussing, foundation drilling,
Okay.
where you have these large diameter augers that drill holes 130 feet down for forming concrete pillars. That's kind of the story for Kenco, is over the decades. Every now and then we kind of need to reinvent ourselves, because once you show how valuable a product is, all of a sudden your competitors start chasing you down that path.
Yeah. Right.
So that's kind of what we do, is we will make the path work, and then we've got to find a new path.
Right. Well, they're doing right outside our building. They put a whole bunch of those of this whole section that we're in actually is like that. So take a look around New West Burnaby, Vancouver. You might have some clients out here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for going. I do want to just do a quick apology for the delay getting us filming. Thanks for being patient with us. But thank you for staying with us, because I really did want to chat with you, and it was a great chat. I hope you guys come back on the show. Kenco is a very interesting company. The video that you made, I want to say that again. That's a great video talking about the history of the company. I hope we get to work together again soon.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you everybody for watching the construction show. We have plenty more episodes. We have multiple episodes we're filming at Ag 1. Make sure to go check those out. Check out Kenco. We will have they've got their website, kencoengineering.com. They've got their LinkedIn. We're also going to put a link to both Brian and Randy if you want to connect directly with them on LinkedIn. So thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of The Construction Show.